we have only, I think, 3-4 things which we have to cover on the basic building blocks, and we would be, I mean, able to write code in JavaScript there. Okay, so let's start. So to start with, right, we have all. Let me just again say what we have already covered. We have covered different data types. We have covered different types of declarations which you can use to do that. Uh, we worked on strings, right? We saw like how string templates works. We have worked on arrays yesterday, right? Like how arrays can be used and all the rules around all of these, right? Now, today, right, I'm going to work on the two different things. One is the conditional statements, conditional statements. Again, these are the base. These are like backbones of your language, right? So we are just trying to learn all of them first, and then we'll start implementing them. Okay. So conditional statements. When I say conditional statement, these are like if else, and we have one more which is like a switch statement. Okay. Uh, we have looping conditions, right? Looping statements, I should say. When I say looping statements, they are for loop and while loop. Okay, so these are the things which we have to cover, and okay, let's cover them one by one first, right? Okay, what is if else, right? Again, people coming from Java, I'm sure you understand what is if else. So it's like this, right? That you wanted to write a condition, you want to run a piece of logic based on a certain condition, right? So in those cases, right, these condition statements helps. So let's say I have, let's say, a timeline which is of age. I'm saying if someone is less than 18, right? Less than 18, I want to say that the person is a teen, right? And if the person is greater than 18 and let's say between 60, right? So I will say this is an adult. And after this, right, I would say that the person is a senior citizen, right? If I have to write this piece of logic, right? If I want to print this, so what logic will I use? I am here saying that it should be like an if else case, and this is how it should be taken. Hey, hi, Harika.
Hi, Akhil.
Hi.
Good evening.
Okay. Good evening. So we just started, right? And I'm just telling like what all we have to cover today. So we will be covering this area as of now. So I'm starting with if else, right? So I think you joined at the right time. So there's nothing which you have missed for today at least. Okay. So okay. So let's say we have this condition that we have these three different boundaries, and we wanted to print the output accordingly. Okay. So how we can write in if else? Again, this is very similar to Java, right? In Java, again, what you write, again, I will draw a comparison between both the languages. If you write in Java, right, what do? You write if, right? And then you give a condition, right? You give a condition which should return into a Boolean value, right? Which should return into a Boolean value. And if is true, right? If it is true, right? Only then this piece of block, right, which is the body of the if block, right, will execute. Otherwise, it will not execute, right? Now, what if let's say the condition returns false? I want to do something in that situation also. So for that, right, you have a else case, right? And if this is not met, right, what will happen is this piece of block, right, under this block, right, whatever you write here will get executed. Okay, and this is the structure of if else, right? Okay, if else. Same structure works here also. So there is no difference here in JavaScript. The same way you write if else here, the same way you will write here in JavaScript. So we'll see that. But what I want to convey here is that again, you could see three different variants of if else structure. Wait just a second, someone pinged. Wait just a second. Why is saying this? Just a second. No? Okay. So yeah, Anand, hey Anand, hi. Okay, what about Chetan also join?
Hey, Akhil.
Hey, hi, Anand, hi. Where is Chetan was also trying to join.
Hello.
Yes,
Yeah.
Anand, yeah, I can hear you, right? Yeah, hi.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, I'm in the call. Thank you.
Yeah, okay, okay. Okay, Chetan, you also joined, right? Okay, great. Okay, yeah. So again, just to repeat myself again, since uh, some of the folks joined, right? So what we are going to cover today is we are talking about conditional statements, if else and switch statements, and then we'll be covering about the looping statements. Okay. So we just started with if else case, and I'm just explaining like how if else works. It is very similar to how things works in Java. So similarly, things will work in JavaScript also, right? So there you write a if condition, right, like this, and then you specify a condition, and if this condition, right, the output of this condition should be a boolean value, right? If it is true, if this condition returns true, then this piece of block will run, right? Otherwise you can have a else block, and if this condition does not meet, right, then this piece of block will run. Okay, let's see this in action. Actually, let me writing here. Okay, let me just do git status. Nothing to commit, great. So let me check out the branch, git checkout -3 day 5, and right, and let us create a new file, day5.js. Okay, so day5 is here. Let me close all this. So let's start writing the code, right? And the case which I'm taking is just a very simple case. I'm saying that so I will have a variable called age, and whatever the value of the age is, I need to use it and create a logic that if someone is of age less than 18, I want to print teen. If the person is between the age 18 to 16, right, 60, I need to print adult. If someone is greater than 60, I need to print senior citizen, right? So how we will write the using the if else condition, right? How we'll be able to write the logic? So let's go there. So let's write if, right? Again, if. So here this is where the block the condition will come. Let me create a variable. Let age. Let me assign a value. Let's say 54. Okay, 54. And here I will do what I will say if age. We are checking what the first condition is. If the age is greater than 0 and less than 80, right? So what we are saying greater than 0, right? And there is one more condition which I have to check, that within the range that it should be between 0 and 18. So I have to use what? AND logic, right? Which we understood yesterday, right? AND logic. So we're saying if age is greater than 0 and age is less than equal to 18, right? Then what I will say is I will say console.log teen, right? Let's say teen, right? Now the second condition again, if I want to write this code, right? If I want to run this, you can see it will work, right? It will work. It will not print anything because there is nothing, right? It can print. Let me just close this and run it again. You can see, right? Because the condition is not meeting. This is not true, and this is not true. So ultimately, the value is not true. So that's why it never got a chance to run this, right? But let's say in such situation, I want to print something. So I'll use the else case. So right, I'll use this and I will say console.log. Let's say not a teen, not a teen. Now let's run this again. This time you can see, right? Since the condition is not meeting, it got a chance to get into the else case, right? And now that piece of thing is running, right? So again, let's go back to the board again. So what I want to tell you here is that there are three different kind of structures which you can see in if else, right? One is simply having a if clause, right? Just like what we just saw. Only if, right? Only if. You can have the block which can have if else, right? So you will have if the condition meets, great, this thing will run. Else, this will go here, right? Now there is a third thing, right, where you can have multiple if blocks, right? Multiple if blocks, which is our case, right? Where we wanted to check if it is between 18 range, right? Less, I mean 0 to 18. If it is in this range, I want to print something, right? And then I also want to check. Let's say this is not meeting, right? This is not meeting. then I still want to check this condition also, this boundary, right? Whether this is in this boundary. So in that case, I will write else if, right? And then I will write the condition that it should be between 18 to 60. If that is the case, I will print adult, right? Right. And I'm saying, okay, and then I'm saying if it is not between this range, if it is not between this range, right? I do not care whatever value, what value does it will it have, let's say 100,000, 2,000, whatever value it is, I don't care. And in all such cases, right, this particular thing should run. So I will keep else block right here, and that piece of code will run if none of the above condition meets. Okay, then only this case will run. So it is like you can have multiple conditions being set using if else, and based on what is meeting, the thing will get executed. Let's see this in action again. Again, this is very simple, right? I'm sure people coming from different languages also they understand this part. So let me write this. This is if, right? So I will write, now we were writing else, right? Let me write else if, and I will create a condition. I'm saying, so I've created a condition from 0 to 18. Now let's say if age is greater than 18 and age is less than 60, right? Let's say, then I will say the person is an adult, right? And let's say I want to still say that if get a value, right? Let's say if I received a value of 67, let's say, right? 67. So what is happening here is it will not meet this condition. So this will not get executed. It will not meet this condition, right? So this will not get executed. So now where it will fall into, it will fall under this case, else case, right? So here I will say console.log senior citizen, right? Let's say senior citizen, right? Let me first run this and see our case. So you can see, right? It prints senior citizen. So let's say let me bring a value of 18. So using the boundary value, right, of 18 here, so this should get printed teen here. Let me clean it up. Teen, right? So and if I give let's say 19, it will get into an adult stage, right? Adult. Okay, and this is how things are working. Now you could say, Akhil, if someone provides me a negative value, then what, right? So again, if you want, right, you can have an extra case here, right? You can put an extra case. You can say, you can put an extra case where you can say else if age is less than 0, right? If someone provides a negative value or something, right? I will say console.log invalid input provided by user, right? So, so this is what it is, right? And then we have an else case, right? So let's run this now. Let me give it a negative value again. Let's say -7. Okay. So let's run this. Invalid input provided by user, right? Okay. Again, this is very straightforward. I'm sure you would be able to understand this. There is nothing new around it, right? Around this part, right? Okay. This is how it works in other languages also. Any question on this part? If else case? No. Okay. If not, right, then I have a question for you for the next part. I just want to understand from your thing, like how you understand this part. Uh, I told, right, there are two types of conditional statements. One is if else, and second is a switch condition, right? That switch statement. Can someone please tell me what really is the difference between the switch statement? If you already know, otherwise I'm going to tell that. Anyone wants to give a time? Like, what is the difference between if else condition and let's say the switch statement? Yeah, please, sorry, yeah, please.
We use if else when there is there is condition, but it has some range.
Hmm.
Like here, age is having some range.
Hmm.
But when we have to use switch case, so in that the condition is very specific. Suppose we want to check the days,
Hmm.
like name of the days, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So the condition is very specific,
Hmm.
or any value. Suppose we want to check any specific value. In that case, we can use a switch block. and where it is having some range, so there we can use if else.
Okay, absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. Just one question on this part. So can't
Hmm.
I use if else for the specific value?
Yes, we can use a, specific value in if else block also, but
Okay.
for switch case, we can't check range. We have to
Okay.
use it for any specific value.
Absolutely correct. That is the whole point around the switch and the if else, right? Okay. Let me just explain now like what she really meant, right? So let's say currently what I asked you is like there is a timeline, right? There's a timeline where I'm saying if someone has the age from 0 to 18, right, then I should say teen, right? If someone has like between this, right, it should be an adult. And if the value is greater than this, it should be senior citizen, right? Something like this. So let's say if you again you can see right, it's a range, right? So if the person has the age as 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 till 18, there are 18, 19 possible values, right, which this age can have, right? And in all the cases I want the value to be what, let's say teen, right? So there is a range of value, right, 0 to 18, right? But let's say, right, if we talk about like as she gave the example of the weekdays, right? So what we have is we have specific value, right? M T, right? Wednesday, let's say Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, right? Now, let's say I am asking that someone will give me an acronym of it, let's say M, and I will have to check and give the full name of it, right? Let's say that is my need of the code, right? I'm asking someone will give me single letters, right, or just two letters of that weekday, and I have to give the full name. If someone gives me M, I have to give Monday. So you can see, right? This is a very specific value, right? It is not a range that it has to be between A to M. Then I will say Monday. No, if it is M, then only it is Monday. So it's a specific value, and there we are talking about ranges, right? So the crux of the discussion is if there is a need when you want to work at a range, right? Then you should always choose if else, okay? Because switch statement can only work with the specific value. They you if you want to check specific value, right? Specific cases, only though in those cases switch statement will make sense. But what we generally do, I mean, most of the people do here is like we because if else also supports specific values, right? So you can still use if else to do that part also. So it's up to you, right? What you want to use, whether you want to use both of them. I mean, for if else or if for the specific part, you can still continue with the switch statement. Okay, we have already covered like how if else works. So let's see now how switch statement works. But again, switch statement works very similar to what how Java works, right? So again, there is no difference around it. Let's and again the syntax also is very much same. There is no difference around it. Let's see the syntax. So this is the if else case, right? Let me bring it down. Let me comment it out. And we'll say, let's say, uh, let day, right, equals to some value, right? I will give us a value to it. Let's say M. Let's say, right? And my logic is print the full name, full day name based on the input received, based on the input received. That is my problem statement. So if you want to achieve the same, okay, let's first use the switch case. How the syntax is, it works like this: switch. You will write switch keyword, then you will take the variable for which you need to evaluate, right? So here, what is that variable? Day, right? It is the value which I want to evaluate. So I'll take day here, right? I will open the braces, and here I will start writing things. So again, in Java, if you're coming from Java background, you know you have to write case, right? So similarly here, you have to write the case. Uh, okay, just a second. I need to again. Now this is the confusion. Let's just a second. If case M, then I will do what? I will say if it is case M, then I will say console.log Monday, right? If it is case Tuesday, I will say what? console.log Tuesday, right? And similarly, you can write all the stuff, right? Okay. So these are the cases. So let me come back to the board again. So what I'm saying is the situation, the syntax of writing a switch cases, you will write switch here. You will provide the variable, right? You will have to provide the variable for which you will evaluate the value. Okay. So in our case, I'm giving the day there, right? And you will open the braces, and here you will start defining your cases, right? You will say M. What does it mean? Here it is like you're doing something like this. You're saying, let's say it's a day part, right? Day. You are something doing like this. You're saying day. It's like this. If day equals to M, it is something like this only, right? You're comparing the value which this day variable has with this value. If it matches, it will go inside this case and run whatever is mentioned there. Okay. If it does not match, right? Let's say you gave the value of day as, let's say, Wednesday, right? So it does not match, right? The case does not match, so it will come out of this. Okay. Now we'll have another case. So here, let's say we'll say Tuesday, and here again you can write whatever code you want to write. Now again, this will not match, right? So it will not get execute. So this did not got execute. This did not got execute. Let me write W here, right? Now this piece of thing will run. Okay. Okay, great, right? Okay, but it is not the end of this statement. We have to discuss both. So let me first run it to show you like how things really work. So let's say this is Tuesday, right? Let me say TU here. Okay, TU. And if I run this, here, you see it printed Tuesday. Let me just clean this up. Run it again. You see it printed Tuesday, right? Why? Because the variable has the value of TU, right? And here, when it was trying to compare the value, right, it got TUA, right? It checked for the first case, it did not match, so it did not went inside this, but then it went into TU, right? Because it was a match and printed this line. Let me write one more case. Case W here. Okay, so I will say console.log Wednesday. If I run this now, does someone know like what will be my output? What should be my output? My value is still TU. Anyone wants to give an attempt?
Should be still Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay. And anyone else?
Tuesday.
Tuesday. Okay. 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 Let me run this thing. Let's see what we get. You see, this time Tuesday is coming, but it also brought with it Wednesday, right? Okay. Did someone understood like why we are getting to Wednesday here?
And
Yeah, break statement.
Right. So I think it works the same way, right? In Java also.
yeah,
Right. So in every case, once you're done with your logic, right, make sure to have the break statement. Otherwise, what happens is how switch statement really works, right? In Java and JavaScript, how it works is if the condition meets, right, for any of the case, it will go inside that case, right, and right, and if it does not see the break statement, right, if it does not see this, right, what it will do is it will skip the checking of these cases. It will skip all the checking, right? Let's say we have more cases here. Let me write W Thursday, right? It was TH and it will say Thursday, right? So you can see, let's say we have given TU as a day, right? It did not meet. So here it is checking sequentially only, right? So first of all, it checked this case, it did not meet, so it did not went there. Now it went here, right? And the case was matching. So as soon as the case was matching, it went into the body and printed this, right? And remember, I did not give a break statement. Okay, it is commented out. So what will now switch will behave is switch needs a break statement to come out of the loop. Until it does not see a break, it will not come out. And because of this, and since the one of the case has already been met, right? What switch will do is it will skip the checking of any other cases and rather go directly in those bodies. So you can see what is happening here is this matched, so it went there. and it did not find a break statement. It went the body of this completed, but it did not get a chance to come out of the switch case because break was not there. So it continued. It continued. It went to this case. It skipped the checking. It did not even check what is this case and all, right. For it now it does not matter. So it just went ahead and went into the body, and here it could see console.log Wednesday, so it printed Wednesday there, right? And now still it could not see a break statement. It went ahead, went into the fourth case, right? Here again, it did not check any of these cases, went ahead and it will run whatever body it has. And again, we do not have a break statement, so it will not come out of here. But now we have anyhow reached to the end of the switch case, so it has to come out of the switch case, right? Let me run this to show the behavior. Now this time it will print Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? But I am giving the value of PU only. And this is exactly how it works in Java also. Right? You can see Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, right? So it prints all the three things. Any question on this one? Again, this is a rule, right? You have to remember this. If and again there could be some tricky questions coming in the interview if you are saying this for the first time. So again, if you remember the rules and all, right, you will be very safe. Right? Okay. So what is the right way of doing things? What you should do is once you're done with your logic, right, for the particular case, always make sure to add a break statement. Okay, I will add a break here. I will write a break here. Let me copy this. I will write a break here and here also. Okay, so all the four cases will have the break statements. Now, there is one more thing in the switch statement. What can someone please tell me? What am I missing here? What do we have in the other?
Default.
Yes.
Default.
Yes, the default case, right? The default case. So, what is the default case? What does default case means? It means what it means is, let's say here, right? We were checking these values, right? Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Let's say I did not give any of these and I gave something like, let's say Z as a value. Okay, Z as a value, right? Now you can see none of those cases are meeting, right? If I have to write the same, I mean, again, you can see, right? I will have cases for this one, this one, this one, this one, this one, this, right? So neither of these cases will match to this, right? But somehow I'm receiving this input, right? So I should at least give a proper response back, right? That okay, you are giving an invalid input, right? That message is required to be there, right? So there has to be a case, right? That if nothing matches, then something should get executed. So that is what default case is. And if you would compare this with the if else, right? This is similar to your else case, right? Let me show you how. Let me first write the default case. So again, I will write default. I will not mention any case here, right? You can see I'm not mentioning any case. I will write console.log invalid input, right? And okay, I will talk about that rule afterwards, but let me just run this. So I'm saying, let me say Z here, right? I'm saying Z. So what it will do is Z would come here, right? This condition would be checked. It is not meeting. It will not go inside this. This is not meeting. Okay. It will not go inside this. This is not meeting. It will not go inside this. It will continue to see this. It is not meeting. It will not go inside this. And now all the cases are done. Now it sees default. And now none of them has met, right? So it will go inside the default and run this part. And it will run this part. Okay. Let me run this. Invalid input, right? Because none of the cases were meeting. I can achieve the same thing if I have to write the logic, right, in the if else condition, right? The same logic, right? How will I write? Tell me. If someone knows. I will do what? If they, let me do one thing, just a second. Day5 2.js. Can I give this name like this? Uh, open to the side. Yeah. Now see this, right? What I will doing is I will write the similar logic here also. If day equals to, again, triple equal to, right? Triple equal to, if day equals to m, I should say what? I should say console.log, this part. I'm trying to write the same logic in if else. Else if, let me just keep on continuing copying this. Okay. And let's create this variable also. Right. A equals to Tuesday, and let me copy this. This is Wednesday, and this is Thursday. So this should be Wednesday, and this should be Thursday. So again, as I was saying, right, you can use the same logic, right? I mean, for the same need, which is to check the specific value, you can do it using the if else block also, right? This is how I'm doing. So if else, if else, if else, right? This is all I'm doing. And again, if I'm saying, if I'm giving an invalid input, right? Let's say that, right? And I don't have a specific range. So what I can do is I can place it under the else block. And this is what I'm doing here in the this card, right? Let's run this to see what will happen now. And let's run this. You see, it said invalid input. It is running day5 to.js. And if I was running this line, this is the same thing, right? Invalid input. What I want to tell you here is that you can see the default is behaving similar to like a else case, right? If nothing is matching, this is working in a similar way. Okay. I hope there is no query or questions around it. It's very straightforward, right? Okay. Then let me ask you another question. What should be the the position of the default case? Should it always come in the end, like this, or I can place it in somewhere else also?
You can place it at any place.
Let's try this. So I will cut it out. I can place on the top, right? I can place on the top. Okay, let's run this now. Let's see what happens. Let me clean. I am still providing Z, right? Mind you, I am still providing Z. So what will happen in this case? What do you think? What should be my output now?
Should still go to default.
It should say default and come out.
Yes.
Okay, let's run this. Input and Monday. This is work again. Let me tell you, this is behaving very same as in Java, right? So Java also behaves similarly. What is happening here is, right? See here, when you were placing, first of all, the answer to my first question, where can you place default? You can place it at any place, right? You can place it at any position, in the first, in the last, in between, wherever you feel like. So there is no hard and fast rule around it, right? Wherever you will place it, it will be executed only after everything else is not matching, right? I mean internally. Okay. But here, right? I mean, but the point here is, when I was putting this here, right, in the end, like this, it was just printing this part, right? And now when I placed it on the top, it printed this Monday also, right? Now let me just cut this out and place it in between, let's say here, and now run it, right? What output do you think it should run now? Should it still say invalid input and Monday?
No, invalid input Wednesday and Thursday also.
Okay.
No. Yeah.
Thursday also, you're saying invalid input and Wednesday, not Thursday.
Okay.
Okay. See, again, the logic is very same, very simple. You can see, right? There is no break statement here in the default case, right? So if what is happening here again? What happened was, first of all, right? So statement, how it works is, it first of all checks internally all the cases, right? It checked all the cases. So you gave Z, right? It did not met this, 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 right? Okay. So it went to the default case then, right? It went to the default case. Okay. To run this, I hope everyone agrees, right? This is how the switch statement works, right? If nothing is matching, it will go to the default case. So it ran this line. But now, since you have changed the position of the default case, right? Earlier, you were placing it in the end, like this, right? And after running this line, there was nothing which it could execute. So it was just printing this part and coming out, right? But now, what is happening is you are placing it somewhere else. Let's say here, right? So now what is happening is it executed this line, right? And since it got its case right and it executed this, right? It will behave similar, right? It will just it ran this body and it will try to continue the execution. It went to this line, and since the one of the case has already been met, right? It will skip the checking part and it will go inside directly inside the body and it will print this. But now, since you have a break statement, here it gets a chance to come out of the switch loop. Okay, and that is what it was happening on the top also. If I place it on the top, right, it checked all the condition, none of them was matching, so it went here, right, and run this. As soon as it ran, right, there is no break statement. It went to the next body, right, it skipped the checking part and just simply ran this line, and then it saw a break statement, so it got a chance to come out of the switch queue. So how can you avoid such situation? Make sure to add break statement here also, and your life would be very easy then. Yeah, Anand, please.
So Akhil, just a question popped up my mind is the case line is there in order to make sure that the condition gets evaluated. So why does it is kind of skipped and the console dot log is getting executed?
See, how switch statement works is, first of all the cases would be evaluated. Okay, all the case M, case TU, case W, and all, right?
Mm.
And switch statement did all of them, right? There are 4 cases. It evaluated all 4 of them and nothing was matching, right? And nothing was matching. So what it did was it saw that, do I have a default case? Yes, it found one, right? And it went
Mm.
inside this, right? It went inside this and it ran this line of code. But again, the logic, there's a second rule around it, right? That if you, again, if any of these conditions are met, right? Here the default condition was met, right? Because
Mm.
none of the case was matching, right? So it ran this piece of line, right? And then
Mm.
the behavior of this statement is that it will skip the, until unless you provide the break statement, right? It will skip that condition. It will skip that condition and it will go to the next case, right? Whatever it is, without checking the case here. It will just simply run it. So to avoid all the situation, the precautionary step which you have to take is always make sure to you add the break statement. Okay, so you can consider this as a rule of switch statement, like how it works, right?
Okay.
But there is, but I hope you got your point, right? It is not like it went into some of the cases which it did not have to go to, right? It is working perfectly fine because none of the cases met, so it went to the default case. It ran all of that stuff, and since we skipped the break statement, it got a chance to get into the remaining of the cases, and it will keep doing that until it see a break statement. Okay,
So if we just remove all the break statement in all the
it will print
cases,
everything. It will print everything.
everything.
Let me show you. It will print everything. See, it printed everything.
And the execution has no errors or anything, right? Like it has executed successfully as well from this.
Yes, because this is how the switch statement works, right? The switch statement is following the rules which it is meant to work with, like, right?
Okay.
So you are not breaking any rule actually. It is you are I mean, what we say, you are willingly not providing the break statement, and switch says, right, that you should provide break. You are not providing it, so switch said, okay, let's have the party and let's do it this way and get you
Okay.
this kind of result.
Okay.
Okay,
Understood.
right? So again, try to understand the importance of the break statement. That is what my focus is on. Okay. So always make sure whenever you are whenever you write your case, right, using sage switch, right, all these cases, make sure you provide a break statement once you're done with the logic, whether it's a default case or the ordinary cases. Okay. And again, the other rule is the default can be placed at any place, first, middle, last, whatever, wherever you feel like. And all these rules are same for Java also. So this is I mean this is very same to that part. Okay. Okay, great. Okay, so again, I also showed you like whatever you could achieve through switch, right? You can achieve the same thing through if else, right? You just covered that part also, right? You could achieve the same thing here. Rather, it is much more logically, right? Because here we do not require the break statement. So even if I provide z here, right, and if I, but here the else case anyhow comes in the end only. You cannot place else on top, right? You can't do this. That is syntactically wrong, right? So if else in if else condition, the else cannot sit in between. The else case has to be the last case. Okay, that's why there is no such problem over there. But in switch, it allows you to put default anywhere you feel like. Okay. Okay, great. So let's move ahead. Let me close this. Okay, so these are the two different conditional statements which you can have in here, right? There is one more, but which is a ternary operation, which is a shortcut for the if else. Okay, let's cover that actually. Let's cover that part also. Uh, Let me delete this. Yeah, right. So here, right. What I'm saying is we just saw, right. If I want to write a if else condition, let's say I'm saying let's write a very simple case. Let's say I want to write if the value of I'm again taking age. I'm saying if the value is less than 18, right, I will say teen, and if the value is greater than 18, I will say adult, right. Let's say this is the only condition which I have in mind, either this or this, right. It is not multiple conditions, not like different boundaries, just two conditions, either this or this, right. So this is the either case, right. It should be either this or this. That's it. If this is the case, right, how will you write an if else? You will just say if age is less than 18, I will write console.log teen, right, and else, right. You can see, right, there is no need for me to even mention the case here, right, because I'm saying either case. I am providing the condition here, and whatever is left, right, I will consider it to be this part. Okay, so I will write just else, and I will say console.log adult, right. If let's say this is my need, right, then this is one way of writing the code. You can write it this way, but there's a shortcut. There's a shortcut for doing this, and that shortcut is called as ternary operator. Ternary operator. Again, it is same what how it works in Java also, right? So what you can do is this is the condition, right, which I'm checking. So I'm saying age less than 18, right? Right. This is the condition I'm checking. If this is the case, what I want to print? I want to print console log teen, right? So how does ternary operation works is you provide condition, whatever you're trying to check, right? Then you put a question mark. Okay, you put a question mark. Then you provide the logic, right, you want to run if this condition returns to be true. Okay, and then you put a colon and then provide the statements, right, the logic, whatever you want to run if the condition returns to be false. So here, right, what I will do is I put a question mark. If this is age is less than 18, right, I want this to be printed. So if this returns to be true, if this returns to be true, I want this to be run, right. But if this return to be false, right, if this condition return to be false, I would run this piece of line, console.log adult, right. And this is called as a ternary operator. Okay, you can see I'm not writing if and else over here, but this is just a shortcut of writing the same stuff which I'm doing here. and this is called as a ternary operator. Let's see this. Let age equals to, let's say, 17. What I'll do is I'll say age greater than 18 or less than 18, sorry, less than 18, less than equal to 18, right? I want to say, I want to print console.log. I want to print console.log teen. Else I want to print like console.log adult. Okay, let's try. I hope this should work. Let's try. You can see, right? This is the condition. This is the question mark, right? This will get execute if this condition returns to be true, which is my case. Since I'm providing 17, which is less than equal to 18, so this condition will return true. So I am expecting this to run. If it was false, right, then this should have been executed. Let's try. It printed teen, right? If I give it like 25 and run it, it prints adult. Okay, so I'm writing, I mean, what I need to print, I'm writing here, right? I could do it other way around also. Let me just show you that also. Okay. Let's say I don't want to print it on the screen, rather I want to feed this value to a variable based on this condition, right? So let's say I have uh, let's say a variable called age group, let's say, right? Age group. Okay, age group. So what I want is that if the age is less than 18, then age group value should be teen. If it is greater than this, then it should be adult. So what you can do use is you can use this shortcut. You can just write age group here equal to and this. That's it. So what will happen here is you're trying to assign the output of this statement, right, to this variable. Okay. So what will happen here is this will the condition will be checked. It says if age is less than 18, it would assign teen as a value to this group, to this variable. If it is greater than that, it will assign adult to it. Okay. Let me console.log age group. Right. So you can see, right, printed adult. Let me say 18. This time 18 means like it should be saying teen, right? Teen. Okay. This is a ternary operator. We call it as a ternary operator, and this is like a shortcut of if else, but it will work only if you have like an if else case, right? I mean either of the two options. Either this condition should be met, and if this condition is not meeting, you want to run something else. Okay. In that case, you can use such a shortcut here. Okay, right? Okay, so these are the different conditional statements which JavaScript has, right? If else, switch, and the substitute of this, which is the ternary operator. These are the three things. Now let's talk about the looping statement. Right? Looping statements is like you want to do same thing repetitively, right? Like a for loop, right? Let's say I want to print, let's say I gave a punishment to a student and said, okay, write your name 100 times. So again, one what someone could do is someone could say, okay, let's say I'm giving a punishment to a student. I'm saying, okay, go and write your name on the board like we used to have in our classes, right, in schools. So someone has to go there and say, okay, uh, I will not repeat the mistake, right? Let's say I will not repeat the mistake. So I'm asking that person to write it, let's say 100 times. So again, manually he will have to write 100 times. There is no option. But let's say I'm giving him a laptop and saying, okay, write this 100 times. So what he can do is he can just copy paste this 100 times, right? He can keep doing this. And let's say these are 100 times, or let's say I ask him to write it for 5 times. So this is how he will do it. And if I run this is how it will get printed, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Now I need to be smarter. So what this language also provides is it provides us the mechanism where we can do the repetitive task right with ease rather than doing like this. So for doing that right, what we will do is we will use the for statement, right? The for loop. So there are two loops, for loop and while loop, which you can use. So if you would see there, right? You open a board. Okay. Again, the way for loops works here, it is very same as it works in Java. Okay. So people who are coming from Java, they should not face any issue around it learning it. But let me explain it in depth how it works. So again, the syntax is like this: you say for loop, right? And you will provide some values here, and this is the bound. This is the body of the for loop, right? And you will write what you want to repeatedly do. Let's say I want to type in what that value, right? Console.log. Let's say Akhil, my name Akhil Jain, right? I want to write this. Let's say 5 times, right? So okay, let me also ask you, right? If I ask you, right, that can you please write it on manually on the board, right? How will you do? You need even when I will ask you to do that, right? You will have to have some counters, right, in your head. You will say, okay, uh, I will use my fingers, right? So let's say I'm saying my fingers, right, as of now. So if I have written for the first time, let's say Akhil Jain, right? If I printed this, I will make the value of the finger as one, right? So okay, I opened one finger. Okay, Akhil Jain is printed. So how many fingers I have opened up? It will mean like how many times I have already done that. Okay, so if it is one, so it means I have written one time. If next time I write this, right, I will increment the value of this to one by one, right? By one. So now the value becomes two. Okay. Okay. So it means I have written twice. I will write the third time, so I will increase the value by one and it will become three. I will again do write it right and I will increase the value by one, so value will become four. I will again write it and now the value became five. And now I knew that as soon as the value became five, right? So I already knew that I have to write 5 times, right? So I'm checking that if this has become five, right, then I need to stop, right? I need to stop, right? So this is how you can have a counter, right? You can have a mechanism, right? Something that using which you are maintaining the count. Okay. Similar logic comes into the picture when you want to write the same stuff using the code. So in the for loop, right, what we do is we maintain a variable which will hold the counting for us. Okay. And again, what we will do here is we can start that counting from, let's say, one, right? So I will say I equals to one. Okay. I equals to one. Or let's say zero, right? I have not written it one even once time, right? Let me, this is my console.log, right? This is my console output, let's say. And as of now, this is blank, right? This is blank. Now I am declaring a variable, let I equals to zero. People coming from Java, right? You know that you would write there and in I equals to zero, right? In the Java loop, you will write something like this, right? Here I am writing let because you do not provide data types, you provide declare the value, right? Variables. Like so I am saying let here. Let I equals to zero. Now you can see I'm putting a semicolon, similar to how I do it in Java also, right? Semicolon. So this is this. So there are so when you write the for loop, right, it is divided into three compartments. One is this, second is this, and third is this. Okay, this is called as the initialization block. Okay, you are creating a variable called I, and you are initializing it with a value. Okay, you're initializing it with a value of zero. Okay, I'm audible, right? Right.
Yes.
Okay, sorry, some network issue. Just a second. Let me just get to a better network. Okay, I hope now it is better, right?
Yes.
Okay, great. Yeah. So where I was, Yeah, I was saying there are three blocks here, right? The first block is called the initialization block, where you declare a variable and which you will use to maintain the count, right? How many times you have already executed the logic, right? So that is what the counter is about. So I've created a counter called I, and I'm initialize the value with zero, right? So this is how I'm doing it. So that's why this is called as the initialization block, right? Now the second block is called the conditional block. The conditional block is like you're checking like what I want to do. I want to print this 5 times, right? So this is my conditional block where I will keep a condition to make sure that I have not reached that threshold, right? So I will check here I should be less than 5. Okay. Until unless I is less than 5, right? I need to continue, right? But as soon as the value becomes 5 or greater than 5, right? I need to stop. So this is my that condition, right? I put that condition here. So this is the conditional block. The last block is the incremental or decremental block based on logic, right? So what I'm saying here is that after every iteration, I need to increment the value of I, right? Because as I was doing it, right, after I printed this, right, I went ahead and I checked did I reach the 5? I did not, right? So what I did was I increased the value of 1 with 1 and it became 2, right? And I printed this. Then I went back and I checked, okay, have I reached 5? No. So I will do what? I will increase its value by 1. Now it becomes 3. So this increment operation, right, in the for loop happens here, right? So you will do what? You will say I plus plus. Okay, I plus plus. So this is your incremental or decremental operation, right, which you will write as per your logic. Okay, incremental operation, incremental block. So there are three blocks in the for loop: initialization block, conditional block, and incremental block. So how this works, right? Again, this first of all, understand the syntax, right? You need to write for loop. You need to have three blocks here, right? The first block is called initialization, second is conditional, third is incremental, and then you open the braces and whatever logic you want to repeatedly run, right, you will write here in the body of the for loop. Okay. Okay. Now how this really works, right? How this really works. Now, if you see, right, my intention here is to run this piece of code multiple times, right? Now, every time this piece of block will run, right, there is a technical term for it, and I call the term as iteration. Okay. So I will say I will check like how many times this for loop works. Rather than saying this, I will say how many iterations did this for loop run, right? Iterations. So as of now, when you start the execution, right, it did not execute it even once, right? You are just starting. So number of iterations which have been done is 0, right? So you can call it like your iteration, right? Your first iteration, right? In the first iteration, the first time that the logic will run, right? So that will be your first iteration. When you will again repeat this, right, you will call that iteration as your second iteration, right? Second iteration. Let me say first iteration, second iteration, then the third iteration, then the fourth iteration, and then the fifth iteration. Okay, you will call it like this, right? First, second, third, fourth, fifth. Now, the logic. Why I'm telling you about all this? Because the way for loops works, right, differs depending on which iteration you're running. Okay. Okay, so this is the most crucial part, right, which people should understand very, I mean, in depth about it. So how for loops works? Let's say for loop has not executed till now, it is now about to start. So what will happen is for loop, the control moves here, right, to this line. First of all, it will run the initialization block. Okay, initialization block. Now try to understand, this is the first iteration which you're trying to run, right? So in your first iteration, what happens first is your initialization block gets executed. Okay, gets executed. So this get executed. Now you have the value of I as 0. Okay, you got I equals to 0. Okay, great. But it will now do the second thing. After declaring this variable, right, and initializing it with 0, it will check the conditional block. So now the conditional block will run. It will check whether I is less than 5. So it is less than, it is checking like is 1 less than 5. It is true, right? This is true, right? 1 is less than 5. It is true. Since it returned you true, right, for loop will get inside the body and run whatever you have mentioned there. So now, since this is true, it will go there and print Akhiljan. Okay, this is your first iteration where it happened, right? And remember what happened in the first iteration? Your initialization block ran first, right? And then your conditional block ran. Okay, okay, this is what really happened. Now, what will happen is it will move to the end of the for loop, right? But but the condition is still. I mean, see, how do you come out of the for loop? You will only come out of the for loop once your condition returns false, right? Until unless it keeps giving you true, 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 right? The condition, the loop will continue to run, right? It will not stop. So the condition has to return a false value only. That is your exit point from the for loop. Okay. Now see this here. What will happen now? In the first iteration, I told you this ran, right? So let me write the sequence of it. So in the first iteration, the sequence is this. First this ran, and then secondly this ran. Okay, and then your body ran, right? And then the body ran, right? Depending on whether it became true or not. Now let's say what will happen now is it will move back, right? It will move back to the for loop. From now onwards, from the second iteration onwards, initialization block will never run. It will never run because it was needed for the start to start the for loop, right? It was needed for to start the for loop. This will never run, right? What is the value? So this will not run first of all, right? In the second iteration. In the second iteration, so what will happen? This time, the second iteration, first of all, your incremental operation will run. Okay, so in the second iteration, what will happen is your incremental operation will run. So now, because of this, what will happen? It will increase the value of I by 1, I plus plus. So now what will happen is it will say I plus plus. So it is like 0 plus plus, which becomes what? 0 plus 1, which becomes 1, right? So now value of I became what? 1. So your incremental operation work, right? This got executed. Now, you have increased the value, right? Right? You have increased the value. And now it will go and check the condition, right? So now you're checking what? You're checking I less than 5. But this time you're checking what? 1 less than 5, right? 1 less than 5. Last time you were checking what? 0 less than 5. Sorry, it was 0, right? It was not 1. 0 less than 5. So this time it will be 1 less than 5, which is still true, right? Which is still true. So it will go inside the body and run Akhiljan, right? Whatever logic you have written. Now, in the third iteration, right? Again, the same thing will happen. Your condition has not given you false, right? It was true. So it will again go back to the for loop. And in all these conditions, this is how things will run. First of all, the incremental operation will run. So now it will increase the value of again I by 1. So now your value will become 2, right? It was 1 here, right? So it will become 2 now, and it will check 2 less than 5. Since it is still true, it will go inside this and run Akhiljan. Okay, and then it will go into the fourth iteration. It will again go to the incremental operation. It will increase the value, and now your value became 3. And it is still checking 3 less than 5. Yes, it is true. So it will again go and run this line Akhiljan, right? Now you're going into the fifth iteration. So now the value of I will become 4, and your checking is 4 less than 5. It's still true. So you will print Akhiljan. Now the sixth iteration, right? It will try to initiate the sixth iteration. What will happen? In the sixth iteration, I value will get increased, right? So 4 plus 1 will happen. It will become 5. And now it will check the conditional block. So it is checking 5 less than 5. Is it true or false? Is it true or false? Anyone? 5 less than 5?
False.
That's a
False,
false.
right? It's a false, right? It's false, right? So what will happen now? It will not go inside this now. As
Breaks
soon as
the
it got as soon as it got false, right? It will directly come out of the for loop. So now, and this is what I wanted, right? I wanted to print Akhiljan 5 times. So this is my logic to write this. Okay. This is how the for loops works, and this works exactly same in Java also. No difference. Let me show you. Okay. So I was writing this right. Let me create this. For let I equals to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus. Okay, and let me run this. Okay, let me clean this and run this again. You can see, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It is running because of the logic which I just explained, right? First of all, in the first iteration, this thing ran, I became 0, and then in the first iteration itself, it checked the condition. 1 less than 5. It is true, so it ran this, right? So you got this output, the first line. Then it went ahead, right? And this time from the second iteration onward, this will never get executed again. So keep it aside now. Now you will only focus on these two things, right? So, but here the order of execution is, first of all, this piece will run. So now the value of I was incremented. It was 0 earlier, so it became 1. And then you will check the condition, 1 less than 5, which is still true, so it printed again. You will keep doing this until you have your I value became 5. When it becomes 5, you are checking 5 less than 5, which is false, and that is its exit point, and it comes out of it. Okay, this is how the for loop works. Okay, everyone. Any question on this part? This is very straight. I mean, this is not. I mean, I don't know, like if you were aware about all the rules which I just said, but what I can tell you, like if people who are with me on the Java side, right, on the Java bootcamp also, Java program, they know, like this is the same thing which I explained there also, and this is how it works there also. Okay, no questions. Great. Then let's move ahead, right? Let me cover one more looping condition, which is the next one, which is the while loop. Okay. So in again, this also works very similar to Java part, right? So what you have here is, let's say I don't want to use for loop, right? I want to use a while loop. So let me first explain what is a while loop, how it works. Delete, delete. Okay. So again, right, we understood. Okay, let me first write what I wrote there. I wrote length I equals to 0, I less than 5, I plus plus, and then I was writing console.log till gen, right? I was printing this. Now let's say what this language provides. It says that okay, you're okay if you're okay with for loop, continue using it, right? But what it says is I have another option which can help you to write the same logic, right, using that approach, and that approach is called as the while loop. Okay, so this is how you write while, again all small. You open these brackets where you will mention something, and then you will have a body of it. Okay, now here, right, again try to understand, you had three blocks, 1, 2, and 3, right? This is your conditional block, right? This is your conditional block, this is your iterational block, I mean incremental block, and this is your initialization block, and all three are mentioned in the for loop in the same syntax. But in the while loop, what can you mention here is only the conditional block, which is this part, right? So you can just at max you can say this only, I less than 5. Okay, but we just understood, right, that if I have to write the repetitive thing, right, these three blocks I still need, right? I told you through the example of manual part also, right? You need some way to uh, hold the value, right, and increase those values, not just check the value, right? So you still need this part and this part, right? But while loop, if you would see, right, it only allows you to mention the conditional block inside this. So where will this part go and where will this part go? So the answer to that question is, again one more thing, the body of this, right, will come here like this. Okay, similar to this, right? So body you will mention here, whatever you mention here, you will mention here only. But where will this part and this part will go? The answer to the question is, that is something which you will have to take care by yourself. Okay, the while loop will not provide you, okay, in the syntax or in the rule. That is something which you have to control. Where will you control? Now you are saying that I should be less than 5. So it means you're assuming that there is already a value of I. But since while loop does not allow you to specify here, where will you specify? Before writing this while loop, you will write here, let I equals to 0. Okay, and this becomes your initialization block. Similar to this, right? You placed it here. And since this was required to be run only once, right? So it meets my need. It will run and then it will go inside the while loop and it will start doing its work. But now one thing is pending with this incremental operation. Like with every iteration, you have to check the condition in the same way, right? With every iteration, you have to also increment, right? So you cannot place it here, right? You cannot place this incremental operator here, right? After the while loop, no, because then it will only run once, that too after completing the while loop, right? And and anyhow, you will not be able to reach there because it will go for infinite loop then, right? So the right place for this part is within these boundaries. So what you will do is whatever logic you have to write, like console.log Akhiljan, right? So I will first write it here. Console.log Akhiljan. And now, once I'm done with all the logic, right, I will write this piece of code here, I++. Okay, and this will work same as this for loop. Now just try to understand what is happening. Let's say you started to run the code. First of all, the control will come here, right? And it initializes a variable called I equals to 0. If you remember in the for loop, right, when this thing starts, right, in the first iteration, this is a piece of code which runs, and it runs only one time, right? So this is same, right? This is achieving the same objective. So I was able to run it only once, and I got a variable called I, right? Then what happens? For the before running the first iteration itself, it checks the condition also. That is what I'm doing, right? I'm checking the condition. Once the while loop starts running, it is checking the condition while 0 less than 5. It is checking condition and it became true. So it will go inside the body and run this piece of code, right? So this piece of code was run. And once I'm done with my logic, the second iteration is about to start. And what I do over there is I go there and run the incremental part. This is what I'm doing here, right? I'm incrementing the value by 1. Once I'm done with my iteration, I'm incrementing the value of 1, right? Now the value of I, and then after incrementing, I check the condition, right? This is what I'm doing, right? It will go up and check the condition. Now value of I is what? It's not 0, it is 1 now, because I increased the value here, right? So it is 1, it is checking 1 less than 5. Yes, this is still true. So it will go ahead and run this, right? And then again the same thing will happen. The value of I will become 3, 2, right? 2. It will again check 2 less than 5. So again it will run. Then it will become 3. Then it will become 4. As soon as it became 5, now the condition is false, right? And as soon as the condition becomes false, the while loop will stop and the control will come out of this loop. And your control will be here now on this line, whatever that line is. Okay? And this is same as, like, this will give you the same behavior what you were getting with the for loop, right? But just understand the while loop as a syntax, right, provides you the mechanism to provide only conditional block. The initialization block, you have to make sure that you're providing before the while loop, and the incremental or whatever operation you're doing, right, incremental, decremental, make sure you're doing it inside the body of the while loop. Let's write the same logic there and let's see whether it works or not. So I'll do this here. I will say let j equals to 0 while j is less than 5. I will do what? Right. Okay. And then I will also do what? J plus plus. Okay. Let me just comment this out. Okay. Let's run this and see. You can see, right? I'm getting the same output. And this is how the while loop works. Okay. This is the for loop and this is the while loop. Right. Any question on this part? And again, it works same as Java part. No difference. In Java also same things works. Okay. So what we covered till now, we covered the conditional block. We understood like how we can write the conditional block using if else. And we saw all the three conditions, right? Let's if else if, and then else, right? Or only if else block. Then you had the ternary operator which you can write. which will only help you to achieve that if and else case, right? Through either this or that, right? And you can have the output, or you can use this statement for the specific values if you wanted to have check, if you have a logic to check in that way, right? Apart from it, we covered the looping blocks, looping conditions. The looping conditions, we covered four things, or sorry, two things: for loop and while loop, right? For loop and while loop. Now there is one extra thing, right? Till now, everything which I did right is same as Java, right? So there is no difference. Now let's take up the case which is not same. In JavaScript, right? In JavaScript, although in Java also we have that thing, but okay, okay. Let me first write. Let me open a new board. Okay, I have used all the boards. Okay, let me delete this. Okay, right. Although I will not complete this, I just want to tell you about this, right? We'll complete it maybe next week. We'll not do it completely today. I'm just throwing up the topic's name, right? So in JavaScript, right? In JavaScript, there are three types of for loops. Okay, there are three types of for loop, not just one. There are three types of for loop. One is called as a classic for loop, which you just saw, right? Where you create for loop and you specify conditions, right? The initialization block, let's say let I equals to 0, something like this, and then you have the block and you do this part. Okay, and this is called as the classic for loop. Classic for loop, right? But there are two more for loops which you have here. The second for loop syntax looks like this. You say for, right? You say const. We will use value of, and there, right, comes the iteratable item which can be iterated, right? For example, arrays. Okay, so this is one way of writing the for loop, right? But this will only work for the iteratable items. What are those? We just covered one of them, which is arrays. So I'm just throwing that so that you know, right, that there are three types of for loops. Okay, we'll discuss in detail about it. Okay, this is the for loop, second for loop. That if you can call it like a forOf loop, like forOf. Okay, this is the classic for loop. This is forOf because of this off here, right? The third loop is called as the for. It looks like this: for const key in object, and this is called as the for in loop. For in loop. Okay. Now, if I compare all this with Java, right? Again, because again I've been saying this. This also helps you to think that way, right? In Java also, right? You have this classic for loop, so this works same as this, right? In Java, you do not have this loop. Okay, you do not have this for of kind of a loop, but in Java you still have this for in loop. Okay, but the way the for in loop works, right, in Java, this is same as this for of, right? Okay, so I don't want to confuse you, but just try to understand. Since I'm giving you that comparison also between both the languages, so I'm telling that you will find a syntax in Java which says for in, right? But the way it works over there is very same as this forOf in the JavaScript. So in a way, this is one part which is very different in JavaScript. Okay, but again, we are not discussing Java, so let me just cut this out. I just take it as like an information only, right? What we have to cover is these four loops. Yeah, please, Harsh.
Uh, as you told yesterday to work on array. So like there was one method for each.
Hmm.
I mean, so like it is also like iterating like
Right,
it was iterating to the arrays.
right. So that is another thing, right, which we have to cover. So that
Okay.
we will cover when we'll discuss arrays in depth, right? As I said, there are a lot of methods in arrays which we have to cover. See, in JavaScript, right, arrays, you can consider like arrays are everything. Okay, you do not have a lot of collections kind of on objects in JavaScript. You do not have that. You only have very handful of items in JavaScript, and you will try to use those only in almost every place. Okay, and arrays is one such component. Okay, so there are a lot of things which you can do with arrays in JavaScript, and that is the biggest USP of JavaScript, right? If you would see all the methods which are attached to that array thing, right? As an example, you gave about for each, right? There are not many, right? Reduce, right? I don't even remember all the names. You have sort and all that, right? So all those methods are something which makes JavaScript very, I mean, what I should say, using all that logic, right? You try to write a lot of things in very less code, right? So that is the power of those methods. So once we will just start discussing about arrays again, I will discuss that for each thing also. Okay, but when I am saying about the for loop which JavaScript provide, understand there are only three for loops: this one, this, and this, right? All three. For each is the fourth thing, right? Which helps you to iterate, right, item by item inside the arrays, and even do something around those items. Okay, I hope I'm sure like not a lot of people will understand this as of now. We'll discuss it, right, Harsh?
Yes, I understood.
Okay, great. So again, as I said, right, classic for loop we have already covered. We will cover this forOf and forOf and forend in the next class. I'm not going to cover it today, but I just wanted you to be aware, like this is what we can do. Okay, these are the other two options which we have in the for. Okay, I don't want to cover anything else. Let me just tell you like what I'm going to cover in the next class, which is Monday. I'm going to cover these for loops, these for loops, and then after covering these two, right? Okay, I might not cover this until we discuss objects. We have not discussed objects, so okay, let me cover this part. Okay, let me cover this part for today. Anyhow, this requires the understanding of object first, so we can cover it there. Let me cover this part today. Let me open it up. So what I'm saying here is, how do you create arrays in JavaScript? We know that, right? We covered it yesterday. So let's say I want to create an array of marks, let's say, and I want to have the numbers here, right? So I open these brackets like this, right? These square brackets, everyone, right? And I can put the values 98. Let's say I'm very studious, so I got 99, even 101 from 100, right? So, so these are the numbers I got, and let's say somewhere I got 10 also. So these are the, this is my array, right? This is my array of numbers, right, which I got. Now let's say I want to iterate through the array, right? I want to print all the items which my array has. Let's take it as an exercise. Let's do this. What I will do here is, let me comment all this out. Let's say I am saying I have an array, let marks. Okay, let marks, and I will put the value 67, 78, 45, 52, and let's say 10, right? So these are the five values which I have in the arrays. Now, if I have to print the arrays, what I was doing yesterday, I was just going and printing like this, console.log and the marks, right? I was doing this part yesterday, right? And I was getting what? If I clean this up, you can see, right? I am getting all the values at once, right? It is like I'm printing the entire array together, right? Like this. Let's say that is not my intention. I want to print one value at a time, right? Not as a block, right? Not as the complete block, one value at a time. So we also know that, right? What we did yesterday was, I told you you can access a specific value using the index positions, and the index position starts from 0. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Let me write the index position also. So index position in this case is what? This is 0. This is 1. This is 2. This is 3, and this is 4. And if I talk about the length of the array, how many items I have? So length, if I will check, I have length is 5, right? I have 5 length, right, of the array as of now. So if I want to print, let's say, the second value of my array, right? Second value means like 78. So what is the index position of 78? 1, right? So how can I access it? Anyone? What should I type?
Mark square bracket 1.
Marks, square brackets, and 1, right?
Yes.
And this will give me 78, right? It printed 78. Let me comment this out. Right, it gave me 78. Let me print it again. Now let's say I want to print all the items one by one. So what should I do? I should write it 5 times then, like this. 0, 1, 2, 3, and 4, right? And if I have to print this, it will be printing like this, right? You can see 67, 78, 45, 52, 10, right? I'm able to achieve this. But let's say if I have 1,000 values, then what? I will write it 1,000 times. No, right? It has there has to be a better way, right? So what I'm trying to do here is there is uh, a block of items, right, which I have, and I want to skim through the item one by one, and then access it, right? And we know like how do we access items in arrays? We access it through the index position, right? So here also I'm using the index position also, right? Only. So let's say I'm saying that okay, I don't want to write this way. I want to make, now we also know about for loop, right? I want to make use of for loop to skim through the entire array and print the items one by one. So can someone please help me with that logic? What should I write if I want to do the same stuff using the for loop, the classic for loop?
You can just increment an I and use that.
Give me the complete syntax. What should I write?
Okay. Sorry, can you again repeat the whole question? What
My
I will...
question is, I want to iterate through the entire array, right?
Mhm.
And print the items one by one using the for loop, which we just learned, right? The classic for loop.
Okay, so in that case, you should analyze the for. Uh,
Brackets open, right?
Start with your assignment, like let I equals to 0.
Let I equals to 0, okay.
And it's okay if I use the length operation, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Whatever we have learned that, right?
next comes is your condition, which is I should be less than length of the array.
How do you find that length then?
Marks dot length, I think, or
Right.
size.
Yes, absolutely
right?
correct, right?
Yeah. And then the increment operator.
Right, like this. And I
Yeah.
can do what?
Now your body
Control.
part. Yeah.
Not log.
Yeah.
And I should say, what should I type now?
Marks. Marks. Square braces. The position element. Dot I. Sorry, I.
Right?
Yeah.
Absolutely correct. Let's run this. You can see, right? 67, 78, 45, 52, 10, right? Everyone, I hope this is clear, right? Everyone?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is how
Yes.
we write. This is how you iterate through the arrays using the classic for loop. This is classic for loop, right? Now, what I'm saying is classic for loop. What I'm saying is you need to do the same stuff using the other for loop, right? Which I just told, which is the forOf, right? So there things will look like this. Again, the for loop, right? You will come here. We will think about the body. But what you have to do here is, but again, just try to understand what we are doing here is, even in this case, right, in the for loop, we are trying to access the items, right, through the index value, right, through I, through the index value I. Okay, through the index value of I, right? And if you would see, here the index value is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And I'm using the I to get that value and then access them. What if I say that you don't have to use the index value and still I want to print it, right? I still want to print it. Then what will do? I'm putting a restriction that you cannot use the index position, the I or any indexing part. So in such cases, right, where you do not want to care about the index positions, right? But what you care is that you want to start from the first item, which that iteratable item has, right? So what is the first item? 67, right? So it will start from there. It will keep on doing hopping to the next value, next value, next value, next value until it reaches to the end of the iteratable item. Okay, right? Right. So in this way, right, what you care about is the exact value rather than the index part, right? So if that is the case, right, where you do not care about the index values, but you care about the value, right? The exact value, like 67, 78, 45, right? So in all those cases, you should use this loop, right? Which is called as forOf loop. Okay. And how will you do it? You will write it like this. You will say const, okay, and then you will create a variable, okay, variable. Let's say I will call it as I only, okay, I, and I will use of, which is the for of kind of a thing, right? So I'm just creating a variable which will hold the value, right? And I will put the iteratable item name, right? What is the name of my iteratable item? Marks, right? Marks is the array which is an iteratable item in Java, right? JavaScript. So I will use it and place it here. Okay. Now what I will do is I will just simply go console.log and say I. What will this I is pointing to? Here, because of this forOf, again, this is how it works, right? It will do what? It will start from the first value of that iteratable item, which is 67 in my case, right? 67. So what it will do is it will see it like this. Okay, it will see. Okay, let me first print it to show you like how it works. Okay, and let's clean this up. Let's just run this. You can see, right? I'm still getting the same output, but this time, remember, right? I'm not using the index position. What really happens here, right? What this forOf loop does is, first of all, this thing right over here has to be an iteratable item. Okay, we have not discussed all the iteratable items in JavaScript. We have just talked about one of them, which is arrays, right? As of now. So consider, so just remember as of now that one of the iteratable items in JavaScript is marks, right? I mean, this, sorry, arrays, right? And you have to just provide the name of that iteratable item. In my case, it is marks. So I'm providing this. Try to understand in this way that I am somehow like putting like this over there. Okay. I mean, just for the point of this point, just for the sake of understanding. So I'm doing something like this. Okay, I'm just doing something like this. What will happen here is this for loop, right? Again, it will run how many times? Till the length of this iteratable item. Okay, so it will auto calculate by itself how many items I have. It will see, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 items there, right? So it has to iterate 5 times, right? And from where it has to start? From the starting index, whatever that index is, I don't care. The starting index here is 67, right? I mean, whatever that index is, what I want to do is I want to start with the first value, and the first value in this iteratable item is 67. So I will start from here, right? And I will assign this first value to I. Okay, so I'm directly assigning the value to I. So now in the first iteration, I will become 67, and that is what I'm printing here. It will again, once this will complete, right? It will again go back to the for loop here, right? And now it will see, okay, I have done this. Now move to the next item. It got 78. It will assign 78 to I, right? And then this will be printed. And then 45, then 52, and then in the last 10, right? After 10. After 10, right? It knows it has reached to the end of the loop of the iteratable item, right? There is no more items to go. So now this is the point here, right? Where it will get to know, okay, I need to stop. And this is my exit point. And this is where it will come out. Okay. So just try to understand forOf loop, right? Works on the values directly. Works on the value directly. Does not work on the index position. Yes, sir. Please ask.
So why are we using const instead of like I values changing in each iteration?
Okay. Okay. Again, what I can tell you here is, let's do one thing, right? Let's do one thing. Okay. First of all, let me try. Will this work actually? Let me see this. Even will this work or not? I think it should work. Even this will also work. If I put directly here, let's see. Yes, this also works, right? You can see I directly placed here and it is also working, right? Okay, great. Now coming to the question of Harsh, right? Harsh is asking, why am I using const and why I'm not using let? Let me use let. You will see there is no change. First of all, at least in my such case, let me clean it up and run it again. and this is how it still prints the same output. Okay, this is till now this is fine, right? Where the difference will come? Okay, see, try to understand what is happening here. Uh, Here, right? If I use let here, right? Let you use for the variable which you can change, right? So the value of I, you are leaving it for the users, right? I mean, what I can do with I over here is, even in the block part, right? Even in this body of the for loop, right? I can go and I can change the value. I can say I equals to I plus 10, right? I can do this, and let's say now print this I. Okay, let's print this I. Okay, let's see what happens now. You see, you got what? You got 67 in the I, and because you created it like a let, what is happening there is you were allowed to make modifications to it, right? Because it's not const, right? Let me do it with the const. Let me try to do the same thing with const. See, if I do this and run this, let me clean it up and run again. You will get the error. It says you're trying to modify the value, right, of the I. Okay, so in a way, right, using the const, right, you restrict the user to manipulate the the basic essence of this for loop, right? Because here, right, what you're getting here is you're trying to get the values here, right, like this, and work on it, right? Even if you want to work, right, on this kind of a value, right, of I, instead of directly changing the value of I, what you could do is you could create a new variable. Let's say let j. Okay, Harsh got out. Okay, I was explaining what I went out. Okay, you can hear me, right, Harsh? Whenever Harsh asks questions, right, he last, I think yesterday also you were asking the question, right, Harsh? And you were not able to get the answer.
Hello, am I
Yeah, Harsh.
audible?
Yeah, you're audible now.
I'm sorry, my Wi-Fi got disconnected automatically.
No
So
worries, no worries, no worries. So
I was
again, what did
asking,
you heard? What did you hear? What did you heard? Like when I was saying this, uh, did you saw this example, right? When I was doing this error?
actually, no, I did not see anything here. Like when I
Okay,
raised the
let's
hand, my voice, like internet got disconnected.
okay. Let me then do it again. Okay. So since you are the one who asked it, so let me repeat it. So okay, what I'm doing, what I'm saying is, if you do it like this, right, and we are okay with this approach, right, Hirsch? This using this, we get the desired output, right?
Yes,
Okay. Your question is why I'm using const and why I'm not using let, right?
yes.
Okay. First of all, let me show you. Even with let, it works, right? Even with let, it works. So if I run this, let me just clean this up and run. You will see it runs, right? Okay. So first of all, that doubt should be cleared that it can work with const and it cannot work with let. That is not the case. It works with both of them, const and let. But what is the actual difference? The difference is what happens here is, since you're working with this forOf loop, right, here, right, and the way it works is it directly works on the value, the exact value, right? So here, right, just to make sure that accidentally, or let's say, or knowingly and unknowingly, right, the best practice over here is that we should not be altering the value which we are directly receiving. Okay. Okay, if you use let here, right, then since a variable declared using let, right, can be reinitialized, right? So let's say I have a mistake somewhere, right, in my logic, and I'm doing something like this. I'm saying I less than, let's say, divide by 0, or let's say, okay, let me not do that. It will be that thing. Let me just say I minus 20. Okay, let's say this. Okay, I minus 20 not equal, sorry, minus, right? Somehow I'm doing this. I'm reinitializing the value, right? And then I'm consuming it, right? Let's say in my logic. If I do this, you can see, because I use let, right, JavaScript will allow me to do this, right? To reinitialize the value of I. You can see, right? what I'm getting is, first of all, I got 67. Then because it is let, right, I was able to reinitialize it. So I got 67 minus 20. So it became 47, right? Like this. Now, if I would have used const, right? First of all, you avoid such situations, right? Now, if you use as const here, right? If you try to run it, it will throw an error because you're trying to reinitialize the value which I has already been initialized with. So I, right, got 67 here, right? And you're trying to change the value, and since it is const, it would not be allowed. Okay, one is this thing. Now you could ask me, Akhil, then, but are not we changing const, I mean value of I in every iteration? Is that your
Yes, sir.
question, right?
Yes, sir.
Right. So the answer to that question is, see again how it works, right? How for loop is working. Here, try to understand what is happening here is, every time, every time this for loop is working, right, it is creating a new I variable. Okay, it is creating a new I variable, and that's why that I variable is receiving a new value, and the previous one is getting removed. Okay, so what is happening here is, in the first loop when it runs, right, I would be, is like you're declaring I for the first time with the const declaration, and you got 67, right? Until this loop works, right, the scope of this is exists, and as soon as the loop completes, the first iteration completes, right, it will go back and it will nullify the previous one, right, the declared I. It will put it, it will make it blank, right? I mean, it will just remove it from the history, and then it will again create a new variable with I. Okay, this is how it works, right? That is what you can understand from here, right? This is
Okay, sir.
how
Understood.
this works in for loop. Okay,
Yes.
and what happens because of this? Now the next time you will be able to assign a new value of I, which is 78, right? But since the scope of this block is still running, right, you avoid the reinitialization part. Okay, and this will fail here. But internally, with every iteration, what happens is, the previous I goes away, I mean the declaration goes away, and a new declaration of I is made with the const, and it receives a new value. Okay, so it is like this. You are doing something like this with first iteration. With the first iteration, it is like const I equals to 67, right? As soon as this it completes, right, this I goes to the garbage, to the dump, and it goes away. And in the second iteration, what happens is, const I became what, 78, right? But since it is declared with constant I, and the scope of this variable is still live, right, because the block still exists, right? So here in this block you cannot reinitialize the value, and that's how you save yourself some headache. Okay, so in the forOf loop, right, always make sure to use const, don't use let there. Okay, similarly in the for in loop also, never use let, try to use const only. Let will also work, but again then you are leaving to yourself, should I mean the reinitialization part. Okay, okay, I think we are good, right? I think I showed you, right, how it works, right? So let me just run it again. So it will just go and complete the thing, and this is how for loop works. Okay, let us stop here, right? I don't want to cover anything else, and I think we're good. Next week, right, for Monday, what we'll do is, I will not cover this foreign loop. I have to cover object first to cover this. So that is surely a task for the next week. But Monday, I will start with functions. Okay, and in JavaScript there are three types of functions which we have to talk about. In normal functions, how we create functions, right? Second is the function expression. This is the first one is called as function declaration. Second is called as function expressions, and third is called the arrow functions. Okay, so we will cover all three next week, Monday probably, right? And then we have to cover objects during next week, and the arrays in depth. And I think if I cover all this, right, it will, I would be done with all the basics. Okay, I would be done with all the basics of the JavaScript, and then we will start moving to the internals of JavaScript, which is call stack, execution context, and a lot of other things, right? And that is the core part, like it's like the brain of JavaScript. If you, and that is the most core part of JavaScript, right? If we understand that part, how things are evaluated, executed, and all that, we'll get all that answers. But I think just to cover these three things, right, it will take 3-4 days. So let's see when we'll reach out this point. Okay, but that is the agenda for next week. Okay, any question anyone has? No? Great, then thank you so much for joining. Let's meet next week, and good night and have a good weekend. So we'll meet on Monday now. Okay, and please practice, right? Yeah, please practice. We have learned a lot during this week, and you will have 2 days to practice. Again, I'm saying, right, please practice, 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 because now we are switching the gears. Okay, so it will be getting bit of, yeah, Anand, please.
Akhil, tomorrow do we have the doubts clearing session or are
Yeah, for
we-
Java thing, right? Yeah, we have.
okay? Okay, it's for Java.
Right, it's for Java, right? JavaScript, we'll keep it here only in the classes. If you have anything, you can ask in the JavaScript, these sessions, or in the Discord. That is
Okay.
only for Java part.
Okay, I didn't. Okay.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Thank you. If nothing else, yeah. Bye bye. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. Good night.
Good night. Bye. Take care.
Bye.